Warrantable condos. So what that means is that when we have a warrantable condo, that means that the condominium is undergoing what we call a full condo review. And this means that the project is then warrantable, or the loan is able to be sold to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. And right now, as of Florida, as of what happened in Florida in late 2021, what ended up happening was that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the two major agencies, as you guys know, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are the largest investors in conventional financing. And ultimately, what they did when they reformed the condominium management system is that they created a conventional approved list system. Okay? So what happens is when you bring a condominium to your lender, or when you're shopping for that condominium, the lender is going to scrub it against this Fannie Mae condo project manager. One of the biggest differences between PRMG and many other lenders is that most lenders would never give access to this particular project system to their loan officers. But at PRMG, we want to make sure that we've got all of the tools to do our job correctly from the beginning, not something that we're going to be surprised by at underwriting later on. So what happens is the building will need to undergo a full condominium review, and then once they do that, the approvals will be good for 1 year. And what are we reviewing? So there is a form, and many of you have heard about it. It is Fannie Mae Form 1076, which is the Condo Project Questionnaire. It's about 8 pages, and it covers a ton of stuff. It covers your basic project information, how many units are in the project, whether or not the project is complete. So kind of like David mentioned, if it's a new project, maybe it's not completed yet. Whereas if it's a resale building, it's going to be complete, and it will tell you that information. Newly converted and rehabilitated project information, financial information, and this is what is very important, right, when we are looking at buildings, because condominium buildings, much in the same way that people have savings accounts, right? What do we have savings accounts for? Emergencies, rainy days. Condominiums have those same things. They're called reserve accounts. So depending upon how much they have in their savings account or reserve account, this is going to affect their readiness when it comes to emergency projects coming up, like the elevators need to be worked on, right? The elevators need to be repaired, they need to be replaced. And what people forget is that just like a single family residence, your roof wears out, you need a new roof. Your staircase wears out, you need a new staircase. Same thing with condominiums, except now it's happening in a much larger scale. So when those elevators go out, unlike a single family residence where it may be an $18,000 problem, now with the condominium building, it may be an $18 million problem, right? So how do we make those repairs, and how ready that building is for those emergencies is really going to dictate what happens to your maintenance fees. If that project comes up and the building does not have enough reserves in their budget as well as their savings accounts, guess what happens to your maintenance fees? The money has to come from somewhere, right? And at that point, the building will have basically 3 options. Either these individual owners will pay for it, either they will go get a loan and give you a special assessment, or they will do a combination of those and give you an option, or ask you to do what we call a half and half, which is you can pay $20,000 now, and then we bump your maintenance fees by $200 as well. Okay, so one of those 3 things will happen, but the money has to come from somewhere. It's not going to magically be supplied by the building. It always falls back on the condominium owners. Ownership information. So many of us have heard about a ratio. It's called owner occupancy ratio. Suzanne, would you like to tell the group what an owner occupancy ratio is?
Yeah, they want to make sure, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac wants to make sure that the ownership percentage isn't too heavily weighted toward investors, because they want to know that there's going to be future appreciation in the home, that we're serving the local community and creating home ownership for primary residences. That's the main purpose.
Thank you, Suzanne. Let's give her a round of applause. Yes. So the ratio speaks to, in that building, if there are 500 units, how many of those units are occupied by owners, meaning owner occupied, and how many of those units are occupied by investors. The reason why the concentration of investors is going to be important, because that speaks to the wear and tear of the property. When you have a property, who takes care of the property better? The person that owns it or the person that's renting there?
Return.
It would be, thank you, Suzanne. It would be the owner, right? Pride. That's why we speak to, when we talk about home ownership, we speak to the pride of home ownership, right? When it is your personal property, you are always going to take care of it much differently than someone that is renting it, or moreover, when we talk about short-term rentals, someone that's a transient, right? That is just there for the night. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Insurance information. So once we talked a little bit about insurance, but obviously the condominium disclosure is going to speak to that. And then it's also going to talk about contact information for the property management, the insurance company, and any other players in that condominium building. And item number 8, this addendum that was included into the form in December of 2021, so it was their Christmas present. This is speaking to the building's safety, soundness, structural integrity, and the habitability of that project. And that came directly from what happened in Florida. Because even though we like to think that we are in the middle of the ocean and not attached to the mainland, we are part of the United States, which means that anything that happens in the mainland flows all the way west and then into the middle of the ocean until it meets us.